When the full-scale invasion of Ukraine began and the country was widely expected to collapse within days, President Zelensky released a video.
Всім добрий вечір.
"We are still here," he told the world from Kiev, flanked by key advisors like Mykhailo Podolyak, who I spoke to earlier this year, and our guest today, Andriy Yermak. A former film producer who serves as head of Zelensky's presidential office, he has been described as Zelensky's right-hand man and the real power broker in Ukraine. Time magazine named him as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. In an exclusive interview with the Telegraph, we talk about the likelihood of a ceasefire, misconceptions about the conflict, and what it's been like to be one of the key decision makers in a country at war. Thank you very, very much for your time.
Hello. Thank you. For me, it's a big pleasure to talk with you, and especially in this special moment.
There's a lot of talk at the moment around the prospect of negotiations, particularly following the election of President Trump in the United States. I've just come back from Kharkiv, where ordinary people are extremely defiant and don't seem to be in favour of the prospect of negotiations. But I was in Kiev before that, and I was speaking to several MPs, including some in your own party, and they were much more warm, shall we say, to the idea of negotiations now. What would you say to your own MPs who are in favour of opening negotiations as soon as possible?
First of all, this night in Kiev was under attack of the missiles, of the Iranian drones, happening practically every day and every night. And this is if we sometimes listen some voices about some escalations, but the people can see in all the world that Putin made this escalation, and he has really made this escalation, especially after 5th of November, after American elections. It's possible to make the two conclusions. First, he don't want any negotiations. He don't want any peace. Putin won't dictate to all the world. Putin wants and think that he have the power to do what he wants. He, first time during the last 80 years, nuclear states acts without any limits and without any veto limits. And this is a very dangerous. It's tragedy for us because we are fighting more than 1,000 days. And of course, it's a big loss. First of all, our people, our heroes continue fighting in the front line. Our civilians, it's living, listening the Syrians many times per every day. But the second conclusions at what Putin do everything that not the elected president Donald Trump, who is said a lot of times and make statements that he's want to do everything to end this war as soon as possible, that he have not success in this. He demonstrated absolutely that it's the signal that he wanted to end this. He demonstrated that he is not respect any rules in this world. One rules that Putin think exists and what in his not adequate heads. Because, and this is again, it's a big risk for all the world. Because if the dictator, if aggressors not stop, we know it's from the history. The young people can read this in the book, see in the movies. Who in Europe and who in the world can feel secure than these terroristic states, which is attacked directly by missiles, the children's hospitals, with the children of the cancer disease, and they know that this is the hospital, and they directly hit it. I mean, our hospital Ahmadit. This regime, Putin, understands only languages of force. Any hesitations, any moment that the people started afraid him, it's like a food for his bad energy, and he's received just more motivations to go forward. And it's understandable that his goals not change. He don't fighting for territories, he don't fighting for anything, he not protected, as he said, this narrative, Russians, fakes, Russian-speaking people. You can see what happened in Kursk. For him, it's most important to continue aggressions than just protected his populations and not be able to push away our forces. He using the same tactics. He has destroyed villages, and for him doesn't matter that this in the Russian territory. I think 1,000 days and practically 3 years of the brave fightings of the Ukrainian people, it's enough for everybody in the world to open the eyes and to understand this current racism, fascism of the current days, it's a big dangerous for all our world.
Well, I take it from what you've just said, Mr. Yermak, that you are pessimistic about the prospect of negotiations anytime soon. But we've just seen, of course, the appointment of Special Envoy Kellogg in the United States. And we understand that his stance is that in order for Ukraine to ever receive more support, they must first show willing to enter negotiations. So am I right in saying, from what you've just said there, that you would not be willing to see Ukraine agree to negotiations, even if it meant that there was a prospect of not receiving more or even maybe any support from the United States?
You know, first of all, I think that it's necessary to look to the real statements and to the facts. And the facts, I'd like that you understand me very clear. Ukraine not exist anybody more in the world who want to end this war as Ukrainians. But for us, it's important how it's end this war. We're victim of aggressions. We not started this war. Everything in our positions and explain in the peace formula of President Zelensky and victory plan. And for a clear understanding, it's peace formula, it's how to really end this war by just peace, by all senses. Of course, we're a realistic person. We understand that it's impossible to implement in one moment. But these documents now, after first inaugurated summit and thematic conference, to have peace formula in details described by each points. It's concrete steps, what it's necessary to end the war and to settle all the crises which created. It's fundamental documents. If these documents, after implementation of full these documents, will be possible for 100% to say, world is ended by just peace, the territorial integrity of Ukraine restored, Ukraine received compensations, responsibility, people back, children deported back, and settled all crises. Victory plan, it's how prepared Ukraine and how to strengthening Ukraine and be ready for any potential negotiations. And you said that I'm pessimistic for some negotiations. No, I'm not pessimistic. You know, the representative of the nations who is fighting more than 1,000 days, it's difficult to say that we are pessimistic. Because without faith, without brave, it will be impossible. I said that we don't see that Russians, the aggressors, is ready for real negotiations. They won't dictate and they want to talking the languages of ultimatum. But I can be sure to say to you that President Zelensky, democratically elected president of Ukraine, by 73% of our population, and who is still have very high level of the support of Ukrainian society, and any leaders of democracy world, of free world, and including the elected president of United States, I'm sure not give anybody rights to speak by the languages of the ultimatums. And this is important because we are living in democracy. In our countries, our nations, based of the institution of freedom, of democracy, and this is big difference with our enemies. Yes, it was good news yesterday about the nominations of the special envoy. I have the honor to know the General Kelly. And of course, in the right moment, we will be happy to start to talk with him about the possibilities. But know him, and he is a very experienced, he is person with big experience. He know what is a war, Russia against Ukraine. And of course, with the leadership of President Zelensky, elected President Trump, I hope, and two teams, when it will be possible, accordingly to American legislation, to start it to work, to consult. Of course, I hope will be found the solutions through the force to go to the peace. But also, I think that the current administration and President Biden, who has many things done to support Ukraine from the first day of the invasions, also have the opportunity, and during this period up to inauguration of elected President Trump, to do important things, because war not have the pause. War, it's continue every minute. And of course, we are stand in our position. For us, it's a very hard. And our heroes, of course, we need more weapons, the more equipment. I wanted now to go to some details. Believe me that our partners, our friends, exactly know what we need. We are working on the everyday base. And our level of the communication, it's excellent. But of course, every day of these fightings, it's a loss for us of the people. And of course, again, back again to this sense, to these principles. Russia understands only languages of force. And we absolutely openly to share with our friends and partners, and President Zelensky personally, visited to the capitals, and he had the opportunity to talk with and meet with the Donald Trump before American elections, and after have the opportunity to have very good phone call with the elected President Donald Trump. They have very good relations. I know how our president respects him and how elected President Trump respects President Zelensky. I think that we can strengthen it. The partners can strengthen Ukraine. In our plan, it's absolutely understandable. We described all these 5 steps. First steps, it's invitation to NATO. We think that this will be one of the most strong messages to Putin, that Ukraine never be alone and he never can prevail in this war, these aggressions, illegal aggressions. I think that we Ukrainians from our side, we are, I think, during these practically 3 years, enough demonstrated that we are brave, we are strong, we are decent, we are real partners, not just now, but for the future. And this is, I think, not about to just to help for some fighting nations. It's first of all about security. And we very respect that every country and every leaders, it's very much carry out about the security of their countries. But this is about the security, because without just peace in Ukraine, without ending by just peace of this war, it's impossible to speak about any security system, first of all, in the Europe, and of course, in all the world.
Well, President Zelensky has just announced the National Resilience Plan for the population in Ukraine. What are its key components? And more importantly, why now? Why is it being released at this moment in the war?
3 years, it's a long period. And of course, for Ukrainian people, very difficult. Difficult for our heroes, of our soldiers to fight, for the people to live, because again, we are living under attack of the missiles, drones, but people continue to work. Children go to the schools, in some place online, in some place offline. But it's mean that for president was very important to speak. First of all, he's always speak very openly the society. He is very much feelings, and his life today it's 100% concentrated for this goal to end this war by just peace, and of course to support people, because for President Zelensky, the life just for one Ukrainian citizen, it's a very important. And this plan, it's about, first of all, about unity. It's about, because unity, it's a very important element of our strengthening. Because, of course, President never closed any problems which we have. And of course, his priority is still to go by the way of the reforms, of the fighting, the corruptions. And he started his campaign with this. And he's still in this position, because his goal when he decided to go to this position of president, it's to make Ukraine strong, it's to make Ukraine democratic, it's to change what necessary to change. And he just in this so tragical and so difficult situation, he don't change his priority. And of course, he mentioned in this plan how the power in the central power, in the local power, with the people, how we together and what we need to do together to really be strong, to be prepared, and when will be right moment for negotiations and for ending this war, how we will be really strong, because I don't believe for any peace which Russia make as a present for us. We don't wait any present from terroristic states. I'm sure that our peace can be just through force. Force, it's help and aid from our partner and friends, and our internal strengthening. It's our real actions, because for president, for all team, very important to create the atmosphere that our Ukrainian business can continue to work, because it's working place, it's taxes, it's the people who is living in Ukraine. And president want that these people who is living in the very difficult circumstances be in Ukraine, believed in Ukraine. And of course, for the people who is temporarily leaving our country, we want that our people, it's our citizens, it's our people, it's children. We want that they want to back. And of course, we understand they will be ready to back if they feel that, and especially for children, of course, that it will be secure. Why? The steps for the invitation to NATO will be very much important, especially now, because it will be very big motivation for, first of all, for our heroes and for all the people in Ukraine, but also for the people who now on the road. Because we know, we are very appreciate and grateful for our friends, partners, who is created the conditions and host our people in different countries in the world. But we are responsible people, we are decent people, we understand. And we can ready to say thank you. But now let's think together how to create the atmosphere and how to secure Ukraine, how to make for us really the country which will be guaranteed the security for our citizens. And now you know that President announced to creation a new minister, which will be carry out especially of the unity of Ukrainians of the world. And one of the most important goal will be to speak, to work, to create the conditions for backing our people home.
Thank you. You spoke earlier about President Zelensky's mandate. Of course, under martial law, it is impossible for there to be elections. But I spoke, as I say, to several MPs in Kiev, and they seemed optimistic that there might well be the prospect of elections this year. Do you think there is a possibility of there being elections in Ukraine in 2025?
First of all, I think that for President Zelensky, he is a Democrat by his nature. And he is not the person, for him, all democratic procedure in the country, it's very important, and he is the biggest supporter of this. And he is very clear about elections. He is ready in any moment for elections, but he always said, I have several points which for me very important. First of all, I absolutely want that any elections will be in such organized and everything which will be for this election, that all democratic world recognize these elections like democratic, like corresponded to all the standards of the democracy in the world. It means that necessary that all citizens of Ukraine have the opportunity to vote, including our heroes, our soldiers in front line, including people who is temporarily leaving the country. Just before the war, and this is for many countries, it's not easy just in the peacetime, because it's a very big work for the embassies, for the consulates. It's really necessary to organize that just one individuals have the opportunity to go and to vote. Next, President absolutely clear, now all money we spend for the weapons, for the salaries, for our soldiers, for our people, we need to survive and we need to win this war. And of course, if it will be some options, then some partners can be able to help us. Of course, with Ukraine, with the President Zelensky, not be a problem when these factors will be working and will be possible to organize, not be just 1% the problems to start this procedure. But looking to the reality, President said that after just peace, we will be ready immediately to go to the proper democratic election in our country.
What would you say is likely to be a missed aspect of the war, which you saw behind the scenes, that is underappreciated by the rest of the world and even people perhaps who are following this war very closely?
In my life, I'm read a lot of books. I like history. Just now, when I have in the night, in the car, in the plane, in some moment, I'm trying to find some minutes. And I can say that it's always better to look to any events after some long distance. Because now we are living in so tragical period and we are really fighting. We are so, the people, we're emotional because it's impossible to be not emotional. When you see how these terrorists killing people, civilians, children, it's impossible. You know, just after 3 years, because President and me, the teams, we are visited very much often to the front line, we are visited to the hospitals, and just saw many things. It's impossible to be not emotional. You know, one thing I definitely can say to you, and probably it's what I'm sure, not just about this war, but in general in the life. You know, unfortunately, people very late understand that everything necessary happened in time. I mean that if you can prevent some big tragedy, it's not necessary to wait. It's necessary to do now. If you can survive, if you can defend one person, one child, it doesn't matter in any place in the world. Of course, now I'm talking about my country. It's necessary, don't forget that all of us were human, and in the end, all these things, politics, real politics, don't cost anything if it's not survive life of one child. And of course, it's necessary to not repeat some mistakes. It's not necessary to make some lessons, to learn some lessons from the history. But unfortunately, people are people. Sometimes it's repeated. Who can imagine that after 80 years, everything, darkness time, which we saw in the movie and the book, repeated? You know, I can say to you that one of the last trip I have some in plane, I don't remember, in plane or in the car, I have the moment and to saw again, I don't know how much time I saw this movie, Dark Times, with Gary Oldman about Churchill. But I'm every times catch myself that it's so about current moment. It's so very similar, something for which we go through and continue be in some situations. But, maybe in 100 years, maybe young people will be more learned these lessons, maybe more seriously, and understand that from very small things, when you can give the aggressor, dictator, small attitude that he can do everything without responsibility, and people will be looking to the war like something which not touch everybody, definitely you received big tragedy. But we are living now, we are fighting now, we continue fighting. We Ukrainians still strong, we Ukrainians still living, we Ukrainians believe that our friends and our partners will continue be with us. And I think now it's really momentum when through the force demonstrated unity of the West, unity of NATO, unity of Europe, we really can finish this hard job which doing, first of all, our heroes, because they now in the winter, in the front line, every minute, believe that the people of the world, for them it's also very important what happened in this territory now, in our lands, because they fighting not just for Ukrainians. Of course, they fighting for their family, for our country, but also we now for post of the free world. We now for post of the NATO. And again, it's, I think, enough to really help us to end this war. But once again, it's a very important. How ended this war? I'm sure that if people very deeply thinking, it's impossible to end this war, to give Putin just small opportunity to fix, to frozen biggest changes of the border of the last 80 years. The force of democracy, the real potential of the free worlds will be demonstrated if we end this war to push away Russian troops, Putin, to the line when this full-scale invasion started. And this will be arguments for ordinary people to continue believe that international law, that international organizations, it's not just phrases. It's really something for what possible to believe. Because if now it will be not just for Ukraine, believe me, tomorrow will be Balkans, Baltic country, our neighbors. Nobody knows what appetite will be next for these dictators. And these dictators now, he's not alone. He together with Iran, he together with North Korea.
One final question from me. You've been very generous with your time, Mr. Yermak. You were speaking there about history and the reading that you've done of the Second World War. When the history books are written about your role in this war. What would you like those books to say about you? What is your proudest achievement in the past almost 3 years?
Francis, I don't think about it. I don't know, you believe or not. I'm not thinking that we are heroes. I think we are decent people who have from the good families. Our parents rightly educated us, and we in this place, and it's our responsibility to do the best possible and impossible things. Because I absolutely sure that for our heroes, for our people who is living in Kherson, in other cities, it's more difficult. And I'm not so kind of the person who said, oh yes, look, necessary. For me, I will be myself feel that I really done everything if we achieve this goal. The most important, I'm not the person for whom it's enough, it's not necessary to win, it's good to participate. Our people pay so high price. Thousands of people killed, destroyed many cities. I think if somebody, I know that president don't think about his role of the history. My opinion, he's really a person who will be always in the history, not just in our country, but all the world. But he don't think about it. And why he's strong and why he's so human. Because he is doing everything from his heart. When the people discussed what is decision he stay in the 24th February 2022, no, for me, I was not surprised. I know him long period of time. He very decent, he very strong, he is really leader. He's not because he is my boss, but I'm sure that he is the best president of Ukraine. And I very much hope, I know that all his life, it's 100% today. And many of us concentrated for one goal. And I hope that this energy of all Ukrainians, together with the millions of people around the world, this is unprecedented. How ordinary people who never visited Ukraine, many of them just don't know about many things about our country, but they feel by heart. It's give the opportunity to believe that in the end, the good always win against evil. I believe in it. I believe in my country. I believe to our friends and partners. And using this opportunity, I'd like to say the word of gratitude of the Great Britain, our great friends. It's our partners with whom we are shoulders to shoulders from the very beginning. To your people, to your government, to your official, to your parliament, to your journalists, because without your help, it will be in other situations. But this is necessary to end it. And when, with big pleasure, sitting in one of my favorite city, London, great city with great people, where I have a lot of friends, sitting and talking about through what we passed. And will be the moment, if we really achieve this goal, the moment to all of us to feel little bit honor to ourselves. But now it's necessary thinking just about fightings and how to win. Thank you very much. And again, thank you to the all Great Britain and to you and to the journalists. You are making a great job. You explain the truth about this war. And please continue. Please don't tire. Please, it's very extremely important. Thank you very much. Slava Ukraini!